Hey, I don't know if you guys have heard about this thing. It's this musical called Hamilton. Yeah, as it turns out, it's not bad. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my review of the filmed version of the musical Hamilton, which hit Disney Plus today. Now, full disclosure, even though Hamilton came out in 2015, and I am a big fan of Broadway and Broadway shows, this is my first real exposure to anything related to Hamilton. And I know a lot of people say, like, why is that? Well, a few reasons. Number one, I always wanted to go see the show, and I think there's such a magic to a live stage performance that I didn't listen to the soundtrack because I wanted to see it in the context of the show, even though I knew that most of the show was the soundtrack anyway, if not all of it. So this filmed version, which features the original Broadway cast, was the first time I've seen anything related to Hamilton or heard the music, so I came into it relatively new. Now, there were a few things that I gleaned just through cultural osmosis over the last 5 years or so, because as almost everybody knows, Hamilton has been and was a nationwide phenomenon for several years now. The musical opened back in 2015. This version is, again, the original Broadway cast before Lin Manuel Miranda and others left the original Broadway production. It was filmed back in June 2016. Now, Disney bought the rights, the worldwide distribution rights to this version of the musical, reportedly for $75 million, and had originally planned to release Hamilton in theaters next October 2021. But with movies not coming out, with theaters closing, they decided to instead release it on Disney Plus in time for the Independence Day holiday here this weekend. I knew that Hamilton had this hype, and I tried not to let the hype get to me as I watched this, because you don't want to go in with your expectations set too high, which is kind of impossible when you've only heard for the last 5 years about how amazing this musical is. But listen, it's a pretty amazing musical. Not just amazing on a music level, but the fact that it is able to do so many different things incredibly well. It works first and foremost, yes, on the level as a great musical. Lin Manuel Miranda's music and songs tell the story so well, give the characters an earnestness, a seriousness when it's required, a playfulness when it's required. Thomas Jefferson, played by Daveed Diggs in the second act of the musical, is one of the highlights and is an example of an historical character who is given a playful tone that fits the show that he's in. While there are other characters, including Alexander Hamilton himself, who's played by Lin Manuel Miranda, that have very serious moments. It's able to juggle those tones successfully, and that's one of the great things about this show. It also humanizes and modernizes the founding fathers and the creation of America. And, the founding fathers, it's easy to see them as oil paintings or the guys on the currency. But here, by making them characters, you're able to really, in a way, relate to the fact, and for me, in a way that I haven't. Maybe the closest I've gotten before was in the HBO miniseries John Adams that Laura Linney and Paul Giamatti starred in. But this show, even more so, you see that these were conflicted people. Not everyone had the same ideas on how things should be and how things should run and what the future of the country was going to be. But you also sense that at the core of everything, everyone did have this idea of building the best country going forward, and that was the unifying theme. Also, I think that this is maybe the best dramatization of professional and personal rivalry and jealousy that I've seen maybe since Amadeus with Mozart and Salieri. And it's kind of interesting, a lot of the parallels. You have this relationship between Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton, who are set up as friends initially, but throughout the years, you see Aaron Burr's real jealousy of all of these things that Alexander Hamilton can do well, and some things that he doesn't do well but succeeds anyway. You see him basically taking this approach of not taking a stand and what it costs him in the end, and the life that he wanted and the things that Alexander Hamilton has. It really did remind me of Mozart and Salieri, originally in the play Amadeus, immortalized in the movie Amadeus, and it actually ended up kind of similarly as far as awards go, because here you had, for the Tony, Leslie Odom Jr. and Lin Manuel Miranda competing against each other, and the Tony went to Aaron Burr, Leslie Odom Jr. And when Amadeus came out, you had Tom Hulce, who played Mozart, and F. Murray Abraham, who played Salieri, against each other for the Best Actor Oscar, and F. Murray Abraham was the one who came out on top. So in both cases, when you're putting these rivalries and this story of jealousy together, it was the more jealous party that took the acting honors. Of course, Lin Manuel Miranda has plenty of awards on his shelf, and he deserves every shred of credit that he has gotten for its success. The music is great. The concept is great. The book of the musical, apart from the music, is great. All the characters are so well drawn, and every accolade that he has gotten for creating this cultural phenomenon is deserved. I did not find it to be overhyped. I thought that it was as advertised. If I were going to lob a little bit of criticism Lin-Manuel Miranda's way, and I know that this is a dangerous thing to do on the internet, but, perhaps even when amplified by it being filmed, by the fact that the audio quality, it plays differently than you hear it when you sit in the theater, that you are a little bit closer with the camera, etc. I did think that his performance as Alexander Hamilton, while a strong performance, was not to the level of the other performances in the musical. And that's not necessarily so much a slam on him as it is praising the other actors in the ensemble. I do feel like musically, as far as the singing, at times even the acting, I felt like the other performers in the musical were operating on a bit of a different level. And, but this was his brainchild. This was born out of love, you can tell, for Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he pours that emotion into that performance as Alexander Hamilton. So certainly I do not think that the performance was bad. It really is just looking at the performance aspect of him in the play, and then looking at everyone else, and you have to draw comparisons, and part of it's just kind of saying how things hit me. I think that when you talk about a filmed version of a musical, a lot of times first of all, I'm glad that they chose to film this. It was filmed over the course of 3 performances. I'm glad they chose to film this with an audience, because you do feel a bit of that live audience energy, both from the reaction to the show with the applause, etc. But there is an energy that an actor brings with a live audience present that's hard to replicate. So I'm glad there's a live audience present. I also think that it does a good job of capturing the stage part of it. It's actually a really good hybrid, I think, because I was a big tech theater guy in high school. I ran the lighting board. I was a stage manager. So one of the things I love to do when I get the chance to see a show on stage is to see the set design, to see the lighting design, to see the choreography and how the space is used. And Hamilton does a lot of really good things with a fairly minimal set. I loved how they make use of a rotating platform in the center of the set, pieces that pull out from the wall and are brought into the middle, some things that are flown in from offset, some by actors. Those kind of things fascinate me, and I love that aspect of the show wasn't lost by staying always too close to the actors. But at the same time, you do get that perspective with the movie of getting close to these performances, far closer than you could get as an audience member sitting in the theater. It's a really well edited, really well shot version. I can't imagine a better way to capture this moment in time of this cast putting together this show. Now, just a note for people, perhaps purists, this is not an uncut version of the show. There are 2 F-bombs that are excised from the show in order to maintain the PG-13 rating, because of course you can't put an R-rated movie on Disney+. But they don't sand off the hard edges completely, and this is certainly not an all-ages musical. That's the other thing. There's still some language in it. There are some adult themes. There is an extramarital affair that is a very big part of the story. So it's not sanitized, but it's not completely uncut. There were some minor tweaks made for language. But really, I think that it would have been so great to be able to do this for shows of the past, to be able to capture this, because not a lot of people, when you talk about the percentage of the audience in the world or the percentage of population in the United States, got the opportunity to see Hamilton on Broadway with the original cast. It was actually a very small number of people. And so to be able to bring that experience home, I thought was a really great thing. I would love if they had recorded The Producers with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick, not the film version, the actual stage version, before that show, before they rotated out of that show, or the original cast of The Book of Mormon, or going back to the 80s, the original cast of Les Miserables. The version of Cats that it was filmed is there is no audience there. It doesn't replicate that same energy. So it would be great, because Broadway shows are such a unique experience, if this were done for more shows, because when you look at the performances, and these are, like I said, multiple Tony winning and Tony Award nominated performances, they are just as worthy of being immortalized as the great film performances ever. Just because it's in a different forum and in a different venue doesn't mean that those performances are inferior. But that is sadly what you see, is great Broadway performances oftentimes are not immortalized because it is a live venue. I would very much support more Broadway shows being captured for posterity like this, because it was really special to be able to see this, to approximate that experience, because that experience can't really be recreated. Not really, especially not in the place and time in which this happened, when the show was still fresh, still just, I think, less than a year after it had debuted. So it's really great that this is available for people to see. If you like Broadway musicals, you're going to love this. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of Hamilton fans already will be looking forward to either re-experiencing the show for themselves, or perhaps if you've just listened to the music, you finally get to see the visuals that go along with it, or people that are experiencing Hamilton for the first time. So as a filmed version of a Broadway show, I think it is very well done. Just on a musical level, as a fan of musicals, I thought it was really well done. Big recommendation for Hamilton. I think that it was worth the hype. Is it 100% perfect? Not necessarily, I don't think, for the reasons that I mentioned before, but it was really, really enjoyable. And I imagine that I will be revisiting it now that I am inducted into the cult of Hamilton, if you will, that I'll be revisiting it in the future. So that's a big recommendation for me for Hamilton. It is now on Disney Plus. If you want to see it, it'll be available from now till whenever I guess they decide to put it in the vault. I don't know how it all works. It'll just be there till it's not. What did you think? Have you been on the Hamilton train for years? Are you going to revisit it? Are you, like me, going to experience it for the first time? Let me know down there in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching this video. Please be sure to like, to share, to subscribe, to hit that bell icon so you know when I'm going to be doing other videos like this. I've got news, reviews, charts, so much stuff here on the channel, and a lot of fun stuff on the horizon that I'm really looking forward to. And you can check me out over on Patreon, patreon.com/Dan Murrell, where I do a monthly movie club. I do a movie commentary that'll be coming up this month for a movie that is being selected by my patrons. Also, I did a commentary for, if you want to keep on this July 4th train, I did a movie commentary, full-length commentary for Independence Day, which you can find right here on the channel. There's also a little card right up there. You can click it and check that out if you want to. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.